Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Startups in the Virus event. This is the second session of today. We have had this the first session just 15 minutes ago, and well, I'm glad to be today with you. My name is Alberto Serra, and I will be the moderator of this session. But first, I would like to introduce you a little bit the spirit of this event and why this event has been created. So in a period when physical events has been all cancelled due to the hard time that we are all living, and well, we have noticed that startups need this kind of events, and that obviously all the startups didn't know about all the opportunities that they have at their disposal around Europe. So there are a lot of opportunities, not only the EXE accelerator, or the well-known EXE accelerator, but also some cascade funding opportunities. And this is what we are going to explain today in the second, third, and fourth session. So the idea of this event is putting all of these projects, also with the support of the European Commission and some relevant stakeholders, in order to explain you all the materials and all the programs that you have at your disposal and at the disposal of your startup. So as explained in last session, this event format is 4 different sessions with specific topics. And I'm going to introduce you now the session 2, which is about the NGI, or why the SMEs and startups contributing to a more human-centric internet under the NGI. First, this session will be introduced by Stefano Foglietta, who is a policy officer of the European Commission, and he will explain the funding opportunities for internet innovators under the next generation internet. Then it will be time for all these programs that I have been explaining before, and all these programs had different opportunities in terms of equity-free or free support services for innovator SMEs and startups. So first, and in order to start, let me introduce you to our first speaker today. I'm glad to introduce you Stefano Foglietta, who is a policy officer from the European Commission. He works under the Next Generation Internet Initiative, and he will explain to you all the funding opportunities that you will have in this initiative. So, Stefano, now the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks, Alberto, and good morning, everyone, and good morning also to all the attendees and to my colleagues there. Thank you, Sarah and Alberto, for organizing the webinar. I think it's super important to keep going. That's what we are doing actually with our usual work. We are trying to support now even more the startup community and the innovators community across Europe with our programs. Business at the commission, on the commission side, business is going as usual, as you know, even more than before, I would say, due to this crisis that we have to tackle. So I'm happy to introduce you to some of the funding opportunities you have for innovators, for startups and innovators that you can currently access within the Next Generation Internet Initiative. Do you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Or do you see the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start. So we are talking about the NGI, which is the Next Generation Internet Initiative, which is an initiative launched a couple of years ago in the Commission. We started everything from a study that we had. And in this study, we basically identified a set of issues. These are some numbers that I want to show you, but there are many more around this topic. The point here is that really the internet is still an untapped potential, and it's still suffering from several big problems. These numbers are quite scaring because having concerns of the people raising and having almost half of the internet users kept from some online activities like online banking, like online transactions, like participating to the gig economy, and this kind of stuff. This has a serious and enormous impact on the economy, on the European economy, and on the European society. So we started to think. I mean, there are thinkings about that still since years. How to solve these issues, and what is the problem there? Why so many people is scared about using the internet for their daily life? So we built a vision. We built we made a study. We involved experts. We ran a couple of consultations with the public, and we defined a vision. So the vision is to build an internet for the future, which is built around humans. Okay, so the internet of humans, what we call, which means not only algorithms, not only data, not only money, but also values inside the internet, which is central and crucial. So we defined a set of let's say pillars for this of this internet of humans that we have to build. So we have, of course, the infrastructure that has to be reliable, that has to be trustable, that has to be resilient, and then we have a number of core values, which are also European values, where we try to build our internet for the future. So the internet has to be resilient. Of course, it has to react to crises and to problems. It has to be decentralized, meaning that peer-to-peer transactions of any kind on the internet should be allowed. Of course, between these pillars, there's some overlap. Of course, centralization has some to do with resilience and with other stuff. Then the internet has to be inclusive, meaning that no one should be left behind, and it has to be sustainable, not only mainly in terms of energy consumption, but not only. Okay, so it has to be absolutely sustainable, and most of all, it has to be trustable. So this is the core concept where we are. On top of which we are building our initiative, the trust. So people should trust. Users should trust how the internet works and how they interact with the internet. This is crucial. So how do we go from these values to the concrete funding opportunities? I'm going to show you in 2 minutes. So we started from the values that you see here. Here are only some of them. So what I just said. From these values, we identify year by year a set of technologies on which we invest money. Okay, so we until now, these are only examples. We have much more. Well, we have more tech topics on which we are investing, but mainly, some examples of these technologies that has to build these values and has to embed these values into the internet are electronic identities, personal data management of any kind, blockchain, search and innovation, privacy enhancing technology, internet architectures, and stuff. So we define a set of technologies every year, and then we go and then we give money to the innovators, which means high-tech startups, open source developers, even individual researchers, group of researchers. We try to be as much inclusive as possible. The key element here is that we are addressing innovators. Okay, we are not addressing big companies. We are not addressing big consortium of companies. We are addressing innovators. So this means that we have to make the whole thing very agile and very flexible and very easy to access in terms of paperwork. Okay, so from here we distribute funding in terms of grants, so it's completely equity free. The administration procedures are really low, really to the minimum. I will show you in a while how it works. It's really easy. There's not paperwork. You just need a good idea, a good team, and a good presentation of it, basically. Another key concept is the short research and innovation cycle. So we invest. We invest for 9 to 12 months. Then there are possibilities over this period, but the research cycle should be quite short and should be product oriented. With product, we don't mean that it has to result into a mass market product, of course, but it means that it has to be quickly applicable and quickly deployable for the public. So in a nutshell, we have 25 million between 2018 and 2020 to restore trust over the internet, addressing a set of challenges, which are the ones that I just told you. So protect privacy and personal data, ensure security, combat disinformation, and numbers of challenges that we have identified. And that I'm not going to waste too much on this wording stuff. 75 millions of this 250 in total that we had are directly supporting innovators, so directly targeting you guys, researchers, startups, social innovators, the individual developers. How we do it? We basically the commission, we select some intermediaries, one per each topic, and then these intermediaries run open calls to select the third parties. In this way, the innovators that want to access funding don't have to be in direct relation with the Commission, with the European Commission. This means that the application process is much more lean and easy for you. So there's no paperwork, the application is super lean, and the conditions to access the grants are much easier. So this is the way we found to address directly innovators and developers. Okay, so you don't have to get in contact with the Commission at all. So I'm sorry for this slide, which is a bit, there was a compatibility issue here, but basically this is the timeline of the open calls. So this was just to show you that each of these items is an open call. And this was just to show that this is May and this is April and this is May. And sorry guys for this, I just discovered it. This was just to show that we have currently a lot of open calls running. Okay, so there's immediate possibility for you to have funding if you fit in one of our tech topics on which we are investing now, and many more will be launched later in 2020. Alberto, would you be so kind to let me know when I have 5 minutes left, more or less?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. So I'm now going to, so this is the timeline, okay? I'm going to show you very quickly each of these items here. I mean, which concrete funding opportunities you have right now. I'm going to be very quick on this. I don't want to waste too much time on this, because then all the information are on the website, and then there will be some of the coordinators of these actions that will explain you directly how their open calls work. So NGI Trust is one of the project that is distributing funding to the innovators. They have 5.6 million directly for innovators. They invest on privacy enhancing protocols and technologies. With this, we means every technology that is privacy enhancing. Okay, so cryptography, federated identities, IoT, data transports, verticals can be any. Sectors can be AI, machine learning, or any kind of application that is, or not even application, even down to the protocol level, everything that is privacy preserving. The budget goes, the grants goes from small amounts, less than 100K up to 200K, which is the maximum. There's also a matching funds concept here. Basically, the range that you can fall in depends on the maturity level of your application. Okay, I mean the closeness to the deployment and to the market. So this is currently open. Let me. Sorry, just a moment to take note on what is currently open. Okay, yes. So NGI Trust is actually currently open. Then we have NGI Zero Pet, which is another project investing on privacy enhancing technologies. Again, 5.6 million. Again, open source. I mean, this is quite. I mean, keen to select open source developers and fund open source technologies.
Sorry.
Yeah.
5 minutes left.
Okay. So I'm going to be a bit faster. 5.6 million privacy enhancing technologies, grants from 5 to 50K. and currently open. NGI Zero Discovery, again 5.6 million. It invests on search and discovery technologies, meaning how to find data and information online, not only on the algorithmic part of the game, not only on the search engine part, but also down into federated systems. Then we have NGI DAPSI, which is investing in data portability. There's a 9-month incubation program divided into phases. Again, 5.6 million funding in total in 3 years, and up to 50 innovators will be selected. Then we have SC Lab, which is investing on self-sovereign identities, so electronic identities, well, self-sovereign identities. They have 2 types of open calls: business-oriented projects and infrastructure-oriented projects. Again, 5.6 million. This is also open. It's going to, the open calls are currently open, closing the day after tomorrow. Then we have NGI Ponter. Mirko, the coordinator of this project, will present the project later on, I guess. Again, they are 5-6 million to distribute to innovators, and they're investing on infrastructure, internet infrastructure. Okay, so protocols and tools to assist the migration to new technologies. This is also currently open. The deadline is 1st of June. NGI Explorers is to fund basically fellowships to go in the United States to work on NGI topics with teams in the United States. We have a set of hosting institutions in the United States. So if you're a researcher on some of these technologies, you can apply and have funding to go there, research, and then possibly come back. Then we have NGI Atlantic. This will also be presented later. It's on common experimentations with the US. So this will be also explained later, but it's basically on that's grant for doing experimentations on NGI topics. Then there is Ledger, which is a project that is now over, or better, it is the open calls are ended. But I wanted to keep this slide because Ledger was working mainly on blockchains, DLTs, and our other peer-to-peer technologies. And we have 3 new projects. Each of it will be 6 to 7 million starting from September. So I wanted to keep this slide to tell you that if you're working on blockchain, we are deeply investing in it, and we will have open calls running as from October or November, I guess. Then in the NGI family, we have a number of sub-protections. If you become one of our grantees, you will access also to a set of horizontal services that we provide to them, in terms of communication, in terms of business acceleration. We have also a think tank for the technological debate with the US on NGI topics and similar activities. So, well, my message is go to the ngi.eu/open calls or to the ngi.eu portal. All the information are there. If you need something, you ask me, or you contact the contact point the contacts that are in the website. I will also share my email at the end of the webinar, so you can contact me, or yeah. Let's come. So yeah, these are 2 slides very quickly, Alberto. Sorry, just to show you what we have been doing, what we have done in 2019, which was the first year of the project of the initiative. So we selected 180 projects, out of which 250 were individual innovators. We mobilized 10 million euros out of the 75 that we have, so we have much more. The success rate, as you can see, is quite high. It's around 20%. Yeah, this is the average project size, 55K, but this really depends on the specific intermediary, so they all have different rules. But what's particularly important, I guess, it's that 88% of people are completely new to Horizon 2020 and to Commission funding, which is an important message for us, because it's a very important KPI, because it means that we are able to address people that normally do not access, and I understand why, the EC funding. Okay, so this is quite a reassuring number for all of you who intends to apply, I guess. This is a bit the distribution of innovators profile, SMEs and natural persons, big percentage, I mean, vast majority of them. Then we have research organization and public sector organizations and another type of profiles. We are very open. This is again the timeline, this time with the names. Again, to let you know that in this exactly now, currently we have many opportunities open, and much more will come in later this year. So join the platform, subscribe to the newsletter. We have some platforms where you can discuss, and there's also an NGI exchange platform where you can find partners, basically. There's also a map where you can register to be part of the community, to be updated with the news, and to be in close contact with the ones that close you, that are working on same things. Again, join us and get funded. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Stefano.
Thank you.
I'm gonna show you my screen right now. So thank you again very much for your presentation. Now it's time to speak about all these initiatives one by one, all these initiatives that Stefano has mentioned in his presentation. So we will start with NGI DAPSI, who will be presented by Sara Mateo from ZABALA Innovation Consulting. Then we will explain about NGI Atlantic, whose presenter will be Jim Clark, who is program manager at Waterford Institute of Technology. Then we will explain about NGI Pointer by Mirko Presser, that is associate professor at Aarhus University. We will speak about the NGI Zero Pet and Zero Discovery by Actor Gohok, who is technology and policy advisor at NLNet. And finally, we will end with Exit Lab, whose presenter will be David, and that is program manager at Fundingbox. So let's start with the first one. Sara, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I will share my screen. Okay, so I will present one of the programs already advanced by Stefano. This is NGI DAPSI, the Data Portability and Services Incubator. Sorry. Well, the origin of this project is very related to the new GDPR that entered into force 2 years ago, where there is an intention to give more control to citizens over their personal data. So in this context, we funded a project with the European Commission funding that is aimed to foster the advance of research in the data portability field. We will do this with direct support to researchers, SMEs, startups, innovators. We will do it providing, on the one hand, free funding, equity-free funding, and a pack of services to support their development in the technical side and also in the business side, to make possible for them to successfully reach the market with their solutions when this is the objective for them, or to support them when they are willing to contribute to the community with the improvement of the internet infrastructure. We are going to fund projects addressing topics such as data transparency, data interoperability and compatibility, security and privacy, or any other project that is relevant in the domain of data portability. So we are quite open in terms of topics and kind of projects. For this 3 years project, we have more than 5 million euros to distribute among third parties, among these researchers and innovators from all over Europe. And the idea is to engage around 50 teams to support them with up to 150,000 euros in each case. So that way they can develop these solutions that in other way wouldn't be possible without this support. We have just closed our first open call with a success number of proposals, 182 proposals. But we have more opportunities in the coming months. We expect to launch a new call, a second call, by the end of this year. So there will be also opportunity for all of you to apply to this open call. If you apply and you are selected, you will be part of a 2 phases program, supporting program that lasts for around 10 months. During these 2 phases, you will progress with your solution development. You will receive this funding support and also different coaching and mentoring. And the idea is that after this program, you will be able to release a minimum viable product or solution really mature. So that's everything from my side. I don't want to extend more my presentation. Just to tell you that you can follow us in the social media and be up to date with all the news in our website. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Sarah. Now it's time to Jim Clark, who is going to speak about the NGI Atlantic. I'm going to make you presenter, Jim. And now you will be able to share your screen.
Okay, can you see my screen, Alberto?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. I'm pleased to be with you today to present the NGI Atlantic.eu project, whose main thrust is to incentivize EU-US teams to work together on research and innovation and experiments in topics related to the next generation internet. The project runs for 30 months from January 2020 until June 2022 and will fund EU-based researchers and innovators in carrying out NGI-related experiments in collaboration with EU-US teams. And these will be based around the NGI initiative topics, which I'll present in a few moments. And there will be 5 open calls throughout the lifetime of the project. The key features of the project are, as I mentioned, 5 open calls. We'll have the open calls will run for 2 months and then a 2-month gap, and then again another open call, and so on. So we'll have projects running in parallel with our open calls. 2.8 million euros is available for the funding of the third-party open calls. There's an external advisory group with esteemed members from both the EU and also from the US. And we have our own external pool of evaluators, which are brought on to evaluate the proposals for each of the open calls. And we have a twinning lab in which stakeholders from the EU and the US can advertise their information, and then it's used as a brokerage platform so that the stakeholders can come together and put in proposals together. And we also will conduct coaching and mentoring throughout the whole life cycle, including during pre-proposal. We'll do coaching and help potential proposers to work on their proposals and try to line them up with some teams in the US. And the Twinning Lab, as I mentioned, is a place where you can showcase your expertises and then find suitable partners to work together in a proposal for the open calls. So our first open call is running from the 1st of April until the 29th of May at 1700 CEST. And the evaluations will take place, as Stefano mentioned, it's a very lean process, both in terms of the application and also the evaluation. So the evaluations will take place in June with the goal of starting the projects on the 1st of July. The total indicative funding available for the first open call is 600 euros. And there's two types of proposals. There's a long-term contribution proposal, which is EU-US NGI experiment and R&I activities for a duration of 6 months. Again, we can be agile and have it slightly longer than that if a proposer wishes. And the funding range is from 50,000 to 150,000 for an LT project. Then the short-term contributions project is for a maximum duration of 3 months and with a monitoring frequency of every 2 weeks and a funding range of 25,000 to 75,000. And the eligible costs are cost of personnel, inclusive of 25% overhead, and travel and subsistence costs. Our first open call topics are mirroring the first set of open call topics in the NGI program, because on the one hand, what we are trying to do is to enable the results that are coming out of the NGI initiative in the EU to then have an opportunity to collaborate with excellent teams in the US and to run experiments with their results. So the first open call is involving key enabling technologies such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and so on in these three topics. So privacy and trust enhancing technologies, decentralized data governance, and discovery and identification technologies. Okay, so then on the other hand, in addition to the existing results from the NGI initiative, of course, we are also open to new entrants as well in our open calls. Then when we talk about experimental platforms, I have some examples here. They could either be EU experimental platforms or also US platforms. So on the EU side, the NGI experimentation, NGI EXP, which was formerly the FIRE program. So Fed for Fire Plus, which is still ongoing, 5G PPP, and amongst others. On the US side, there's the National Science Foundation wired and wireless programs, such as the ENTER, which was follow-on to GENIE. There's a Fabric project, which has just started. It's a large-scale $20 million NSF program, which has just started. And they had a workshop last week, which I attended, a virtual workshop, and they're very interested in working with EU as part of this. Then there's future cloud platform projects. There's one called Chameleon. Then the PAWR projects, Cosmos and Powder, which are very large-scale smart city platforms. So these are the kind of platforms that would be a good place to run experiments. And these links are in our Twinning Lab. So just some examples of EU-US project teams. So an innovator in the EU that has developed an NGI-based solution to improve new ways of search and discovery would like to team up with a US experimental platform funded by the NSF. So that could be a nice proposal. And then likewise, an innovator in the US that's developed something NGI-based on decentralized data governance that wants to team up with an EU-based partner who's developed similar solutions or wants to do some testing on an EU experimental platform. Now, just to point out, in both of these examples, according to the rules, the project will fund the EU-based partners and the NSF would fund the US partners, either under their existing projects or new project funds. So, for example, the NSF had a program called the US-EU Internet Core and Edge program, ICE-T program, which is specifically for funding US and EU partners. If you cannot make it for the open call number 1, as I mentioned, we have 4 more scheduled, and the second open call will start on the 1st of August. And just some sites here for on the open call details, the FAQ section, a webinar that we held, and also a contact form. And my email is also on the first page as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Now it is time to NGI Pointer and Mirko Presser. Mirko, now you can be able to share your screen.
Yep. So you can see me and hopefully my screen, and I will stick it in presenter mode now. There we go. So thank you for letting us have a slot on the webinar, and thank you for Stefano to already mention some things about NGI Pointer. So I'm going to dive right into it. This is a project about internet architecture renovation. So this is the core aspect of it. So unlike many of the other calls, this is really looking at the core architecture components. We also include sort of web components as possibilities there as well. But you can see sort of a list of inspirational topics that we are looking for on the right-hand side, which are elaborated in our work program that you can find on the website, of course. But it's a very, very blue sky bottom-up project-based call. So the total budget is 5.6 million. We spread it over a minimum of 2 open calls, of which the first open call is now available here since the 1st of April and closes on the 1st of June. So there's a little bit more than a month to go before we're starting to select the projects. And we are extremely flexible of what we're taking on, as long as it is within the scope of this internet architecture renovation. So we're not looking for the applications or the layers on top of the infrastructure. We're really looking at under the hood technologies. And the key for us is really the persons. So we're looking for these NGI architects, and we really want to see more of what motivates them, what their DNA is, why they're doing this. And we're looking both for legal and natural persons, so European-based researchers, developers, hackers, internet activists, SMEs and startups, as well as universities are all fair game. And we delineate a little bit between them what they can get in terms of the funding. So the natural persons have a limit of 50,000 per person, whereas the legal person has a limit of 200,000. But you can team up, you can join as teams, so this is also flexible. No upper limit on how many people are joining together. If they're joining as legal and natural persons, that's fine. But there's a ceiling of 200,000 and 50,000 per person, per natural person. So a little bit more detail on this individual here. We have these minimum quality criteria that we're looking for, and we're really looking for experience here that people can demonstrate. So contributing to open source, for instance, is one. Contributing to internet architecture communities, having scientific publications in the field of internet architecture, having created or being involved in internet or web-based startup, SME, with sort of these European values that we've already discussed. Or actively contributing to internet and web communities through any other means, like teaching, for instance. And we want these to be demonstrated with resources that we can check online. So, and there's a minimum of 2 out of these 5 that a person needs to sort of encompass. So this is trying to really get a first picture of the persons before we need to go to the application level. And in the application, of course, the main topic is internet architecture, web components, tools and methods. So this could be, for instance, also something in the deployment pipeline for open source. We could be interested in that as well. We have good links there into the Linux community that is working very collaborative on larger projects with smaller contributions. But then when it comes to deployment of the code, it becomes quite tricky and difficult. Then when we're looking at the project, we're looking also at some impacts. So we're very much looking for demonstrable internet architecture renovation projects. So this is real code has to be made, real hardware has to be made. So it can be software or hardware-based projects. And it can be, of course, contributed to a community. So it needs to be not a fully deployed new version of a protocol that now is part of the internet suite, but it is in a demonstrable state where we can see that there is actually something working. Open source contributions and or standardization and rollout potential. So this could also be something about scaling the solution so it can be rolled out at a very large scale. So what do you get? So I already mentioned that there's a ceiling of 200,000 euros in bottom-up Blue Sky project funding. So this is equity-free, as was already mentioned earlier on. There are some rules behind it if you're a natural or legal person, but you can form teams of several natural persons to hit that ceiling as well. And then we saying, okay, so there's a limit to 12 months where we want to do this, but underneath or how you organize yourself in these up to 12 months is something that we will take a dialogue with you. So we have this Iceberg mentoring program that we will work together with you as the first milestone in each of the projects, have a plan that we can execute. So this is also very agile, how we want to see this. So you can find more information on pointer.ngi.eu. Deadline is 1st of June 2020. And of course, we have to have some Lego here because we're in Denmark. But this is, of course, a stormtrooper. So, we can see the internet has a little bit of the empire here. And then if we say this is Finn, he joins the revolution, of course, the internet architecture renovation. So if you want to hear more, this was a very short overview. If you want to hear more, we have a webinar actually in 2 days, pretty much exactly 2 days and 1 hour. Which you can join. There's a link here at the top, and I believe that the slides will be shared, so you don't have to screenshot it or type it down immediately, but you can then click on it when the slides get shared to the group here. And if you have any more questions, you can always contact us on ngipointer@fundingbox.com or look at the website. You can also find my details there and get in touch directly with me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mirko. I will just want to remind all the attendees that if you have any question, you can write it directly in the chat box, and all the presenters will be answering your questions. So now it's time to Jost, who will present NGI Zero Bet and Zero Discovery. Jost, the floor is yours. And now we can see your screen.
Yes, I'll share my webcam as well. Let's have,
yeah, perfect.
So you can see a face with the presentation. And if correctly now you're all viewing my presentation, right?
Yes, but not in presentation mode.
Not in presentation mode. I am in presentation mode right now, so that should. This isn't viewing right now?
We still see the not presentation mode.
Okay, let's see. I could just switch. Is this one correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can just switch. Well, nice to be able to give you a short introduction on the 2 calls that NGI Zero is currently running. So NGI Zero is, as the name would suggest, one of the first research and innovation actions, grant programs currently coordinating 2 calls, which, as you can read here, are focusing on privacy and trust enhancing technologies, and one on open search and discovery, improving open search and discovery. So this is just a short overview of other research and innovation actions, such as the one Mirko just presented on architecture innovation. A quick summary of how we approach grant making. Both of these grants entail a budget of 5.6 million euros being given to projects in relatively small R&D grants between 5 and 50K. Between 2018 and third quarter 2021. We have a continuous call that's closing and opening every 2 months, next deadline being June 1st, until this budget is allocated. And an important thing to note here is that for both of these calls and for a lot of other projects Helmet has been funding through its long history, is that we require certain characteristics of projects that would be building blocks for the next generation internet, which means to adhere to free and open source standards. So all technology projects that we fund will be made available as open source software and hardware, and a number of criteria for this technology to be user-friendly and accessible and inclusive. So projects will be following a security quick scan with one of our expert organizations in NGI 0. We have optional infrastructure for localization and internationalization. We offer support regarding inclusivity of software and of hardware in both its design, as for example, like the community surrounding certain technology or projects, and offer support for packaging to make software as available as possible to a wide audience. This is our website. This is the new website. You can click see a little bit more about the current funds and, for example, current research that we have been supporting relating to the COVID-19 coronavirus situation that got us all where we are today. A focal point of our funding procedures is that we try to make it as lightweight and open as possible. Lightweight meaning we have very little paperwork that we require of the projects, as we would very much like projects to focus on actual running code being developed and usable technology and building blocks being developed. These calls are open to all natural persons, organizations, groups, SMEs, SMEs which are of course are very relevant to the startup community, which I will get into a bit later. And these are a few of the criteria that we weigh projects on, which are straightforward, I would say. So first, relating to the next generation search and discovery, which is one of our open calls. This is a short description here. The main takeaway here is that we both support projects aiming to improve and open search on the one hand, so search engines and search technology that does not infringe upon users' privacy, that does not limit the scope of information that can be searched for commercial or other reasons, and discoverability on the other hand, also relating to agency. So communities being able to control for themselves how they can make local content discoverable, or making new content data open for discovery purposes. So those two areas are what we are focusing on. As you can see in this slide, I will not go over every project. These are a number of projects. Currently, both calls in total have funded more than 150 projects since November 2018. And as you can see, we try to approach this goal of improving search and discovery on a number of layers, on all layers if possible, both on end user applications. Circs, as some of you might know, is like a privacy-friendly aggregating search engine, aggregating the results of other search engines to give users a customizable and clear, transparent overview of internet content. And then also like technical building blocks, infrastructure improvement projects, and more explorative experimental research. As I said before, I will show you some stats relating like to how many SMEs we are supporting currently. We are actively supporting projects being done by SMEs. One of them is, for example, Search and Displace, which is a cooperation between a law firm and a web developer, aiming to have very specific and accurate possibility for searching and also redacting information that can be personal, sensitive, or harmful to individuals in any way, which will, on the one hand, as I mentioned before, improve discoverability of a lot of information while making sure that information can be shared in a privacy-friendly manner. And Sonar, which is an effort to improve search and discovery in a peer-to-peer network. And as you can see here, the applicant applications that we've received so far are quite diverse, with quite a lot of SMEs applying in funds. These were applications or calls that have ran last year. Let's see. Yes, and then for the privacy and trust enhancing technologies, also here a short description. As Stefano very accurately described, that trust and trustworthiness of technology and of internet technology is a very important core aspect, we feel, of the next generation internet, also here. And the same as with search discovery, we like to focus on trying to improve and track projects that improve a lot of different layers of what privacy and trust enhancing technology would mean. So both from the internet architecture and protocols up to end user applications and everywhere in between, which again, here are a number of projects you can look into if you want to know a bit more about what type of open source and open hardware efforts we are funding right now. And to give you like some example. Yes.
2 minutes left.
Yes. Okay. That's doable. Some sample projects of organized by SMEs that we are funding. Cell Client is right now a very well used open source video conferencing tool that anyone can anywhere install for free. Doesn't not use any specific applications. Just runs in your browser. Can be hosted by, well, an organization on their own if you want to. Uses only current existing open internet standards, and, for example, has been used or is being used by the NGI communication community right now to satisfaction. And CryptPad also seeing like a 400% increase in usage in these remote working days, which is a more privacy-friendly and very user-centric alternative to something like Google Docs. So a collaborative environment where not even the server can see the contents of sometimes very like sensitive, financially possible organizational information that you're collaborating on. In this solution, web-based again, make sure that your privacy is well protected and is entirely in your control. Again, the applicant statistics for a number of calls that we have finished, as you can see here again, SMEs take quite a large percentage of applicants so far, and we hope to attract SMEs in the future as well. So we are very open to small businesses, startups. If you want to know more about these two open calls, just visit our website, so nlnet.nl, and then from there on, you can find everything you want. We're also active on Twitter and, of course, on Mastodon as a decentralized alternative. And these are just all the organizations that we are collaborating with to make sure software and hardware projects are accessible, secure, packaged, inclusive, etc. And this is our slogan that I would like to leave you all on. So thank you for your time.
So thank you very much. Just
Yes.
as mentioned, if you have any questions regarding these programs, just write it down in the chat box and just we'll answer them directly. So now it's time to SIF lab, sorry. And yeah, I will make presenter to David. Now you can share your screen. Although we cannot hear you. Hello? David, we cannot hear you. We can see your screen, but we cannot hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, now it is.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and are you seeing the presentation?
We are seeing your Google Chrome.
Okay, this is trouble with the, so I will pass this to this screen. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so I will put it in presentation mode.
We can see the presentation mode, but yeah.
Okay.
We are seeing your PowerPoint window.
But you cannot see it as presentation mode. So, sorry, I have to pass it like this because, well, I have two screens and this is trouble with the with the hardware. Sorry. So I hope you will see it well. So I'm talking about the ZABALA open calls. This is a project and an open call to get a wider adoption of self-sovereign identity technologies. So we aim at to advancing the broad uptake of SSI and to get as fast as possible deployment of these technologies into the market. But when talking about the market, we are not talking about deployment and the business perspective, but also to get the deployment for end users. And this is the reason why we have two types of open calls. One is more, let's say, technical approach, infrastructure-oriented open call, where we are targeting 20 innovators, 20 projects for the technical enhancement and extensions of one SSI framework that is currently being developed by our technical partners, TNO and GRNet. TNO is the coordinator of the project. And two business-oriented open calls targeting 42 SSI business and social innovators and applications. We have 5.6 million euros available for funding, and in total, as you can see here, the numbers, we will support 62 projects for these two types of open calls. And we want to make a relation among all the open calls. We want to really build an ecosystem. So the infrastructure-oriented open call is aimed at get the enhancement of the SSI architecture development. We will provide access to open source SSI solutions that is developed by our technical partners, as I said before. But business-oriented open calls will also provide the market feedback to our ecosystem. This is the reason why we have these two business-oriented open calls with two different deadlines. And this is how it looks like. For the 5.6 million euros available, 3.1 million is destinated to the infrastructure-oriented open call. And here we are providing up to 155,000 euros per proposal or per project. And we have 2 business-oriented open calls with all the rest of the menu available for these 2 deadlines to the business-oriented. And we are providing up to 106,000 euros per project. On top of that, we are providing technical and business mentoring for the selected proposals through business-oriented open calls. For the first business-oriented open call, for you to know, the deadline is in 2 days from now for the first deadline. And here is where we are basically welcoming EU-based or Horizon 2020 associated countries-based SMEs and startups. And we are providing, on top of the funding, 8 months of acceleration support. This is for the first open call, and we will open a second call just immediately after, and we expect to close it later by 2021. And for the infrastructure-oriented open call, we are basically accepting applications of everyone. This is what we call European innovators. Here we are welcoming not only SMEs and startups, but also research centers, universities, even individuals. And here is where we are welcoming applications that will have access to open source SSI components that are developed by our technical partners, and providing the funding to make this possible, up to 155,000 euros. Here we have 3 deadlines, and the first one, the open call is now active. The first one is coming on the 29th of June. Well, this is how the evaluation looks like. So you have to submit your application through Funding Box Open Call Management System. We are the partners in charge of managing the open call, so I do not want to go on to much detail on this, but this is how regularly works the open call process in the Cascade funding scheme. For the first business-oriented open call, this is how the landing page looks like. Here you are the direct link to apply before the next Thursday. And we're expecting to launch a second business-oriented open call by spring 2021. And you have also here the direct access to a link to a help desk where you can send us your questions that we will happily answer if you have any question about the open call. This is for the infrastructure-oriented open call. As I said before, the next deadline, which is actually the first one, is on 29th of June. But we expect to have more deadlines in January next year and in June next year. This is a continuous open call. This means that the link for applying to the SIP Lab infrastructure open call is continually active from now till June 2021, but the first deadline is on June this year. And this is all what I wanted to say about the SIP Lab open calls. Here you are the access to the info email, and you can get access to the website to find all the available information about the project and the open call. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for your presentation.
I'm sorry for the troubles with the system.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm gonna show my screen. So now it is time to question and answers. We have just some minutes for this question and answer sessions. I've seen that we have one already for Stefano, and I'm gonna tell you to unmute yourself, ask you to unmute yourself. I'm gonna tell you the question. So how long does it take NGI to evaluate proposals after the calls close? And does it have a deadline to answer participants?
Hi, yes, thanks for the question. I mean, that's super important. Yes, of course, there is a deadline for answering to the applicants. Each project sets it, I mean, each intermediary sets it in a certain way, But what I can tell you is that the evaluation process is really fast. Normally it takes 1 to 2 months to start to have the evaluation and to start working, basically. So the application has been designed, I mean, the whole process has been designed to be as fast and as lean as possible. So yes, of course, there's a strict deadline that depends a bit on the project, but I can assure you that the whole process is quite fast and lean. So yes, for details, you can see each project's description on the NGI.eu portal, and there you will find all the details of this.
Okay, thank you. There is another questions. I'm gonna just read the questions related to NGI in general, so mostly for you, Stefano, and then we will send the questions to each specific project coordinator. So is there a success rate for the programs, and are there single beneficiary grants or consortium necessary?
Sorry, say it again, the first one.
The first one is if you know, or if there is a success rate numbers regarding these programs.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I told you, I mean, we made some numbers, and overall the success rate is around 20%. It's higher on certain open calls, and it's a bit lower on certain open calls. But since the tech topics are quite, let's say, narrow, the success rate is normally quite high, much higher than usual, than other EC funding mechanisms, basically. So it's quite fast. And the second question was, sorry,
if there is a single beneficiary or consortium.
Well, this also depends on the specific project that is vehiculating money, but normally I guess that all of them are open to both to both possibilities. So you can either apply with your, I mean, individually, or or you can make a joint application with other companies or with other individuals, creating consortia, basically. So it's quite open on this point of view. You can apply however you like.
Okay, so thank you, Stefano. I think that we don't have more questions. If you have more questions, then you can email us and we will try to answer them. There is another question for Jost, but we will send it to Jost and we will reply you separately as we are running out of time. So thank you to all the participants, and thank you for all the presentation. It seems that there are a lot of big opportunities for innovators, SMEs and startups under the NGI initiative. I just want to recap and to tell you that, as mentioned at the beginning of the event, this is a 4-session event. So we have in just 5 minutes the next session, which is about the Startup Europe and the future of blockchain. So if you have a company and you want to expand your business, to grow your company, and if you have companies related to blockchain technologies, just you need to attend this webinar, and as there are a lot of opportunities in terms of equity-free funds in this under these programs. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy this webinar, and see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.